Now, you don't normally see me reposed like this, but we're in Italy for a very special occasion. It's the launch of the Alfa Romeo 4C, a car I've waited to drive for years. But tonight, we're going to have dinner, drink some Prosecco, enjoy ourselves, and then tomorrow, we get to drive it at last.
Planet Alfa hasn't been a happy place for some time now. Look back at the company's stunning history, and the past 20 years have been a sorry saga of bodged Fiat platforms and horrible front-wheel drive sheds. OK, there's been the odd ray of light, but not much. So you can understand why Alfa is making some noise about the 4C. It even built a building that goes over its test track to launch it at Bolocco. This isn't just a new sports car, it's a new beginning for Alfa Romeo. The car itself is a two-seat coupe using a carbon tub for massive rigidity. The dry weight of the car is 895 kilograms, 925 kilograms with fluids. For reasons of space and budget, the motor is effectively a hot version of the Giulietta's 1750cc turbocharged four-cylinder. Power is 240 horsepower, torque is 258 foot-pounds of torque. So it actually has a superior power-to-weight ratio to a Cayman S. Alfa claims 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds and 160 miles an hour flat out. The transmission is a 6-speed double clutch developed and built by Alfa. It's claimed to shift in 130 milliseconds. The chassis is a little unconventional, not at the front where you find double wishbones you expected, but at the rear, which uses a strut design because the powertrain package is so tight. You see, it seems strange to me to be so uncompromising on the carbon tub and then not have the optimum suspension design on the car. So what? It's a dinky little thing, the 4C, 39 centimetres shorter than a Cayman, but still longer than an Elise. It's wide though, 6 centimetres wider than the Porsche. The packaging is pretty tight with the motor slapped right into the rear bulkhead, leaving a smallish boot behind, which has no gas struts for reasons of weight. In fact, the whole car is about not being heavy. The cabin carries no unnecessary trim, the seats are very thinly padded, and the whole thing feels much more Elise than Cayman. You can specify a radio and air conditioning, and a set of runners for the passenger seat. As standard, it's fixed. But I just love the exposed carbon in that cabin. The dash is especially funky, and much like an Aventador's TXT screen. The steering wheel isn't funky, but more of that in a minute. This isn't a car just to jump in and master after 2 minutes. The controls take time. The motor is so turbocharged you have to measure the boost, and at first the unassisted steering feels very light off centre and then very heavy under load. But the sense of immense strength in the chassis and suspension that's allowed to work independently from that base is really addictive. It's supple, very agile and great fun at ordinary speeds. The motor pulls very hard from well under 3,000 RPM, and it makes some decent poppy noises on upshifts and under full load, but it's still not as crisp as a Cayman's Boxer 6. But the more I drove the car on the road, you know what, the more I liked it. People respond so well to the shape. The torque means it's effortlessly fast, and the gear shift with the DNA switch thingy in race mode is damn good. What I didn't like was the seat, which was uncomfortable and unsupportive, but that might just be my weird shape, and I didn't like the steering wheel. You have an amazing uncorrupted steering rack and then fit some over-padded, stupid-shaped wheel. It's a crying shame. Refinement's pretty good too. Like so much of what it does, the 4C kind of splits the difference between the Cayman and an Elise, and I think that's quite a good place for an Alfa to be. So what's it like when you throw it around a bit?
Here we are then at Bolocco Proving Ground, or should I say playground. Like all these things, it feels like a playground to me. The 4C has two very different personalities on circuit, and I want to talk you through them. This is the accurate one, okay? This is the car that's mid-engined, balanced and has mechanical grip. I'm using just a section of the track here. Turn the car in, the front end is fantastic. Lift the throttle, you can feel it just neutralise for you. The brakes are just stellar, absolutely stellar. Gear changes are fast enough, but on part throttle they're not brilliant. When you're flat out, that's when you get the 130 milliseconds. Traction, superb. Little bit of understeer at times, but you can neutralise it on the throttle. I'm driving the car accurately and I'm really enjoying it. And with that, unassisted steering, it's lovely, really lovely. It's grip, it's agile, it's everything you'd want the car to be, I have to say, everything. And it rides the curbs absolutely superbly. We'll smack up on one now, look at that, it's just excellent. What else is notable about the car? Well, the powertrain. I think they've done all they could with 4 cylinders and a turbocharger. I really do. I don't know what more they could have done. The torque is immense. I mean, from 3,000 RPM, less in 6th gear, it just hauls. It absolutely hauls. But that does make the top end feel a little bit lacking at times, which is a bit of a shame. But there's no doubting that it's a fast car. I believe the 0 to 60 time, and furthermore, on the road, because of the torque, it feels even quicker. Just, there's something about a light mid-engined car that just feels right, doesn't there? It is right. It's the perfect layout. I really like it. And what's more, I'm probably being a bit kind as well, because it's an Alfa Romeo and I've wanted to drive an Alfa Romeo that could do this, well, since I could drive a car. That other personality, the one I didn't quite expect. I thought this would be all about accuracy, this car, but if you go into race mode and you back it in, yes please, an Alfa Romeo that can do that. It's a honey. Short wheelbase, and yet it'll do that all day long. Just feels absolutely fantastic to me. It's well balanced. The unassisted steering weights up beautifully when you're cocking about. It's lovely. It's really lovely. I would say one thing about the steering. Off centre, it's quite light and the car moves around a bit, and when you get into the meat of the lock, the weight really comes. I presume that's caster effect. I found it a bit disconcerting, but the more time I've spent in the car, the more I've loved it. The more you really grab it by the scruff. No, this is a special little car. And so that's the Alfa Romeo 4C. It is so many things, and so many of them are positive for a resurgent Alfa Romeo. But let me leave you with one thought. This car is really special and significant because it's not a Porsche Cayman, and that's what the marketplace really needs.